Hello, hello, and happy Friday. And also, today is Dr. King's birthday. So I'm so glad that we're here. What a day to be having this conversation on Dr. King's birthday. And for if this is your first time joining us, my name is Jay Love, and this is turning a moment into a movement. And the moment for me began the day my son was wrongfully incarcerated for a crime he had no knowledge of. He wasn't around, he didn't do. So since that day, I've been advocating for him, and we created this space where we can all come and safely discuss criminal justice and wrongful reforms and wrongful incarceration and everything like that. So thank you for joining us. And hi, Trisha. And
Hey, Jay.
how are you?
I am good, nice and full. I just had some chicken, so I'm great right now.
Awesome. Awesome. And I see, hold on a second. I see Revertia. Little John is in here.
Hi.
Hi. How are you? Okay, we got we got a little delay going on, but Trisha,
I am wonderful. How are you?
oh, okay, there you go. I'm great. Looks like you're in the car. But go ahead, Trisha.
I am.
Oh, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Trisha, introduce yourself for those who it may be their first time, and tell them about yourself, what you're doing, and also talk about your event.
Thank you, Jay. So my name is Trisha Duckworth. I am executive director and founder of Survivor Speak, an agency that just believes in amplifying the voice of an individual, community, or issue around taboo topics and social injustices. Of course, everybody knows the anti-racism fight has really been thrust to the forefront, especially over the summer. And so we are working to inspire people to get involved and understand that we all have special gifts to contribute to this fight. You might not fight like me. I got a big mouth and I rah, 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 I'll call you out, right? But you might not fight like me, but you fight like you and contribute what you have to this movement because there's a seat at the table for everybody. So if you're unsure, if you have questions like, what do I do? I don't know where to start. You need to be with us tomorrow. It's called Are You an Activist and What's Your Role in This Justice Fight? And it starts at 2 p.m. It is via Zoom. I'll send the registration over, but it is via Zoom. And we're just going to have different individuals from different walks of life share their levels of activism. And again, in hopes to inspire you, because we got to get busy. We got work to do. And the only way to do it is together.
Absolutely. So I see Attorney Hugo Mack just joined us. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Okay.
Much respect, much respect.
So next, Tia, introduce yourself just in case this is someone's first time. Introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Well, my name is Tia Littlejohn, and some people call me Reverend Tia. Right now, I am working actually with Flint. Have been working with Flint for some time now in reparations for the damage that has been done to Flint. That's the current thing, but I have also joined in and so glad that Janice gave me an opportunity to work with her and to help people balance and to know that just because you are a faith walker, that you have a duty to speak up, to speak out, demonstrate for civil rights on every in every area. So I'm just really, really happy and proud that we are able to have this forum. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Attorney Hugo Mack, introduce yourself and tell us for the viewers that may be their first time joining us, what you do and all you do.
Okay. Well, look. First of all, thank you for the forum. And it just takes a village. It really does. And we don't have to have an army. We have to have a group of committed people. The Revolutionary War was not won by a great army. It was won by a group of dedicated people who were willing to take the blows and still keep standing. So my name is Hugo Mack. It's been a privilege of mine to be involved in the law, sometimes in the courtroom, sometimes out of the courtroom, for over 40 some odd years now. And I'm proud to be a criminal defense attorney. And, God has given us all a talent, like our sister just said, and a way to act and a way to participate. And I'm proud to be able to be on that front line in the courtroom. It's not just enough to have a defense attorney. You have to have a defense attorney that is willing to speak truth to power, regardless of the consequence, and don't stand back, And so I'm trying my best to be that way and fight for liberty and justice, particularly the plight of the wrongfully convicted. I understand that personally and professionally. So, I'm here, and I just want to thank you, sister, for your heart. And it's always a joy for me to see my sister Trichet, all the time. And so it's a one, and my other sisters right here in our village. So I'm proud to be here, and thank you so much, J Love.
You're welcome. Thank you. So today we're going to talk about the plea deal trap. This is our third week in the wrongful conviction series. And that leads me to our guest, Taylor Pennington, who we have with us today. Taylor, I'm so glad that you decided to join us. Would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story?
Awesome. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, J Love, for this platform that you've created to give people like myself and Billy a space where we can tell our story and get it out there to the people is so important. And I'm especially excited to be in this space with you again, because a lot of people don't know, but it was your wrongful conviction rally that activated me in August to go out there and begin to advocate for my husband. So my name is Taylor Pennington, and I have the honor of being married to William Billy Pennington. He is a wrongfully incarcerated man out of Cincinnati, Ohio. He has been in prison for almost 11 years for a crime that he did not commit, nor was he present for. But due to a false eyewitness statement, he was charged with this crime, and he later took a plea to hopefully try to salvage some part of his life, which is what brought me into the conversation today, dealing with the plea deal trap. So myself and some other activists in Ohio, we created the Free Billy campaign, and we have been pushing very, very hard over the past year to get Billy exonerated and home and safe to his family.
Wow. So that leads us, Billy's story leads us into what we're talking about today. And so happened, me and you were just having a random conversation, and I found out about Billy being a victim of the plea deal trap. So innocent people are pleading guilty to crimes that they did not commit. It happens to countless people each year. There's no telling how many people are wrongfully incarcerated. According to the National Registry of Exoneration, 95% of all defendants accept a plea. So, Attorney Hugo Mack, could you explain to us what are plea deals and why can a plea deal go bad and turn into a trap?
Well, certainly. First of all, as I'm sure all of you know, the state has tremendous power, tremendous power. We are creating more and more statutes, not only nationally, but in the state of Michigan, all right, day by day, week by week, month by month. So when you've got a prosecuting attorney and a police force that is more impressed with statistics and self-aggrandizement than public safety, It's very easy for a prosecutor to destroy your life with a stroke of a pen. Because when you have a prosecutor, for example, that is not willing to hold the police in check, then the police will charge whatever they feel like charging because they've got a friend in the prosecutor's office. So what happens? Well, what happens is, let's say the police suspect somebody committing a crime. Well, what they do is, in the course of that investigation, they will load up every conceivable charge they can think of on that defendant. It happens all the time. The system is front-ended. In other words, it's top-heavy, all right? And what happens is when you have a defendant, and most of these people are black, brown, poor whites, women, people who don't have the resources to defend themselves, and you're facing a mountain of charges, then you've got to start looking in human nature. You know, self-preservation is the first law of nature, all right? So if the prosecutor's coming up, and plus, please don't have some prior criminal justice involvement, because then the habituals come into play, okay? So what happens a lot of times is the prosecutor will use an habitual offender like a club. I've seen it 10 million times over somebody's head. Now remember now, maybe you were guilty of whatever that habitual was. Maybe you did go into somebody's house, or maybe you did sell some drugs, or maybe you were doing something wrong. Okay, all right, that's possible. But it doesn't mean the second charge and the third charge are right. So they will use that habitual and say, if you don't accept what we're offering you, we're going to habitualize you, and we're going to up that prison sentence by half, time and a half, double, on up the line. I can tell you personally, that is a terrifying thought, a terrifying thought. So what happens is they use the habitual offender statute, they overload on these criminal charges. A lot of these defense attorneys are scared to go to trial, scared to go up against these prosecutors and these judges. And that's how you get into a trap where a person could actually be innocent, but terrified into pleading guilty to something.
Wow. I have a video. Thank you.
Imagine you're a public defender with a client accused of a serious felony. Your conversation almost always begins in jail. In the visitation room, you begin preparing him for the most important decision he has ever made. And he'll have to make that decision while sitting in a cage. The prosecution has offered a plea bargain. It expires soon. If he accepts a guilty plea, he'll get out of jail sooner than if he goes to trial. Before the plea offer expires, your investigator tries to identify and interview the prosecution's witnesses. Are they unreliable, making faulty assumptions, lying? It all matters to your client's freedom, but you're operating in the dark because you don't know who those witnesses are. Why not just ask your client what happened? That might work if you were guilty. But innocent clients can't tell you what actually happened because, for the most part, they don't know. You lay out the options for your client. He could go to trial, but a judge may detain him, which means waiting in jail for months, if not years, before a jury hears the case. The idealist in you hopes that your client will fight. You think he could win. But the realist in you recognizes that if he loses, he will go to prison, potentially for decades. The other option is he could accept the plea offer. It would mean going home sooner. It's no wonder that 95% of defendants accept plea offers. It's also no wonder that so many people exonerated of crimes like manslaughter and drug offenses originally pled guilty. Your client signs the paperwork admitting to something that you believe in your gut he did not do. The judge asks you, does either counsel know of any reason that I should not accept the defendant's guilty plea? You want to shout, yes, Your Honor. This plea is the product of an extortive system of devastating mandatory minimums and lopsided access to evidence. My client faced an impossible choice. He is saying what is necessary to avoid the possibility of losing his life to prison. Instead, you reply, no, Your Honor.
Wow. So, in my experience on my journey with Gerard, he was offered a plea. He was offered a plea of 1 year, no court costs, if he pleaded guilty. And when he told me this and we were having a discussion, I said, well, what are you going to do? Because he told me he was also facing 15 years in prison. And he said, Mom, I'm not going to plead guilty to something I didn't do. So I said, okay, we have to fight. But I can see how easy that it can become a trap, because 1 year versus 15, there's no medium, there's no nothing. So I'm going to lead this over to Taylor, because Taylor, if you can tell your story about what happened with Billy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll say this. Billy was 17 years old when this crime that he was accused of happened. He was currently incarcerated at 17 years old for unrelated charges. And when he was misidentified, or actually intentionally misidentified by a young man who had his own motives. And he said that he saw Billy that night at the scene of the crime. At that point, that is when his public defender offered him this plea deal. Him and the prosecutor came up with this plea deal. And it was presented to him in the way that, we have an eyewitness, you have priors as a juvenile, you have priors. The odds are pretty much stacked up against you. So if you take this plea deal, you would have an opportunity at getting out when you're 36 years old. You'll still have your life ahead of you, and you'll be okay. And we all kind of know what the other side of the parole board looks like too, So, but that's what he was offered. And he to this day, he tells me that he regrets taking that plea deal. And I just have to be, from a human perspective, from an advocate perspective, absolutely not. Never take a plea deal, right? But from a human perspective, understanding when you are young, Black, you have priors, you don't have resources to hire a paid attorney, and they're saying they have a witness. I told him, I said, honey, you did the best you can do at that time with what you were working with. And now we're fighting the exoneration. But on the other side now of the plea deal, here we are 11 years later. And this is why the plea deal trap is indeed a trap, because literally as we are, well, first of all, whenever you enter into a plea, you are waiving your right of an appeal. You are waiving your right of it up to an appeal. So our first process in this journey has been to withdraw his plea. That is what we filed for his plea to be withdrawn. And literally the prosecutor and the judge has responded with, he took a plea. There's no evidence of him committing this crime, but because he took a plea, that is their only argument. He took a plea willingly and knowingly. So that is the obstacle that we are continuing to fight, because that's what their argument is. He took a plea, and it's that simple. They are not even putting up a fight, but we have some other tricks up our sleeves with the appeal courts and so on and so forth to eventually, and we're going to go as far as the federal Supreme Court if we have to, until we get approved to go into get a retrial. He never had his opportunity to argue his case, which at the time he didn't have a attorney who was willing to argue his case. He had a public defender who was probably overworked, overloaded. We all know that story. Mm-hmm. And he persuaded him to take a plea deal. So our biggest obstacle is not evidence that's against Billy. Our biggest obstacle is the plea that he took.
Right. Edward Sanders said it is a practice of the prosecutors to overcharge, to force a person to come to the table on his or her knees and give up the constitutional rights to a jury trial. 94 to 97% of people in U.S. prisons plead guilty. And that's pretty much accurate, because when I've been researching this, and I noticed that it was saying like 95% of the people, defendants, take a plea. Let's see, Kenneth Paul said, we're miseducated and then thrust into an unjust justice system. Yes. So that's why we're here. We're here. This is what the purpose of this platform, to educate, to give out information, to help us navigate the justice system as the best we can. We're trying to be a village, a community, to give out this information, because when we go to court, they don't care if you don't know. You're supposed to know. Isn't that right, Attorney Hugo Mack?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
So, and when you saying you don't know, that's just your ignorance, Okay. And like you said earlier, Attorney Mack, when you have the entire state of Michigan versus you, that means you have the whole everything, all their resources and everything against your one little self.
Correct. And not only that, the resources of the federal government itself. All right. Mm-hmm. Every prosecuting attorney's office, every law enforcement agency in this state has got a connection to the FBI. All right. So they keep federal databases, fingerprints, blood samples, tissue samples, everything. So you have a mountain ahead of you, a mountain. And I want to say this. The other thing that's also a problem is something systemic in we as a people. I've encountered thousands of people and jurors who come in thinking we wouldn't be here if they weren't guilty. All right. And that's part of the problem that a defendant faces, especially if there's implicit bias based on race, for example, that the police would not put their time, the prosecutor would not put their time, this eyewitness would not put their time in unless this person was guilty. We all know it's a charade, it's a ruse, it's taking our time. And people feel that way until it happens to them or someone they love. Then it's an oh my God moment.
Right. Tia, do you have something? Reverend Tia?
Well, I wanted to talk about the fear that is related to this, that people are afraid, and that they did a study, and a lot of times African Americans already go in believing that they lost, that they're already guilty, and they did a child study. A lot of times African Americans have grown up believing to be guilty already, and so as they grow up and things happen where they are wrongfully incarcerated and wrongfully judged, and taking a plea deal, they're afraid. There's so much fear at the basis of it, and the fear is a justified fear, because as we can tell through the most recent activities that have happened in the United States, it all depends upon a person's perception,
right,
and how they perceive African Americans to be. And so they already start off guilty. And that is what needs to be reformed. How do you reform the mind? How do you reform that mind? How do you prevent that mind for being in leadership? We have people in leadership who have a warped, prejudicial, discriminatory, and insane mental capacity.
Right. Trisha?
It's no cookie cutter approach to this fix. It's going to take so many different angles, because this system does not want to be torn down, and it's perpetuated by so many different things. And I look at, like you said, the fear that people face, and it's easy for me to be like, why would you do that? No, that's not the question you ask. You don't ask somebody why they did it to be accusatory towards them. You ask somebody like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did it. Why would they do this to you? Like, that is so horrible. I mean, we have to change our way of thinking around it. And then you said something about the jury pool. Somebody said something about the jury. But I sat through and I court watched this case. And that jury, most of them had their mind made up, like you said, when they walked in there. So now you faced with, you don't have a jury of your peers. And we know this. We know we're not getting a jury of our peers. So if they say, hey, you can go home in 5, or you can take your, or you can roll the dice on this 25 max sentence. I'm taking 5 years. I don't want to be away from my family. I don't want to be away from my kids. So I mean, it's like, there's so much to work on when it comes to criminal justice reform. And we really got to put our heads together and build on this particular momentum that's going on right now to get everything that we need.
Right.
Because we can't keep watching our brothers and our sisters accept plea deals for something they did not do. It's a travesty and it needs to stop.
Right. Edward Sanders said, comment is the largest number of innocent people are in the groups of people who plead guilty. If for no other reason, it is due to overcharging by the prosecutors. Attorney Matt.
Whoever Mr. Sanders is, he's right.
Yeah.
Because that is a common, and let me get real kind of emotional about this.
Okay.
In my career, there are cases that stick out in my mind that I go to bed with, that I think about from years and years and years ago, where I saw absolute travesties come on people that I know in my heart were not guilty, people that ended up, and I tell you, just as a person decision somebody's got to make, but person professionally, I say don't plead guilty to nothing you didn't do. But I don't criticize people who do, because it's a lot of pressure that the state will put on you. But I'm saying that it takes a few brave souls willing to risk everything to expose, inequalities. You know what I'm saying? And when the prosecutors come in, they know the law is on their side. They know the police are on their side. And this is another thing I'm gonna tell you. Your elections are so important. I'm gonna say it again. Yeah. Your elections are so important. Who you elect as a prosecutor and who you elect as these district and circuit court judges. Because I'm telling you, what is so disrespectful, and if they want to disbar me for saying it, let them do it. A lot of these people running for Court of Appeals and Supreme Court, they act as if they're running for sheriff, and that's not what a judge is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Anytime you see a judge running on, I'm for law and order, I'm for being tough on crime, tell everybody don't vote for them, because that is not a judge's job to reinforce a system that presumes somebody is guilty. That is not their job. And these are the people that we count on to bring justice. The courts are the last bastion of justice the people have. When you lose your right to come into court and be presumed innocent and have the law work for you and not against you, when you lose that, then we're just perpetrating a sham when we say we're the greatest nation on the face of the earth, because we're anything but.
Right. Kenneth Powell brings up, they get paid too. Easy pleas, not drawn out court cases. And that's another thing we got to keep 100. It's a business also. And taking pleas cut court costs and make the court more profitable. So, and that's a fact that we talk about wrongful convictions and we talk about the criminal justice system, but it is a business. And they make money. They make money off of all of, us, whether you plead or don't take a plea. They're in it for the money.
That's right. That's right. The prisons too, don't forget. Don't forget. The prisons are in it too, okay? The prisons, I can tell you from personal experience, they rip people off on those phone calls. They rip people off on the cost of goods they have to buy in that store. They rip people off on health care. I know what I'm talking about. Okay. They rip people off in terms of dehumanizing people. I can tell you from personal experience, I've had guards call me the N-word. I've had guards plant stuff, on in my area because, they know the system is working for them and against us. So it isn't just the people out here. It's the Department of Corrections that needs to house clean totally. And that's why who you elect as governor, who you let be the director of the Department of Corrections, these things are so important when they start warehousing people like John Engler did in his administration.
Exactly. And I know for a fact that that's 100, because even in the county, those phone calls are so expensive. I mean, the county, they $15, $16 just to pick up the phone. And then once you pick up the phone, by the time you hang up, it might be $30. And that's before they even get to, you know, where you're really going to spend the money at is at the prison. That thing is a monster. Right. Everything, they got catalogs, and you can buy this, you can buy shoes. And when my son told me about all this stuff, I'm like, what? You know, it's just a big money ring.
Well, if I may interject, and that's why platforms like this is so important, because there's so many different moving pieces to this criminal legal system that we all live under, from the institution to the pretrial process to, you know, the trial process. There's so many different pieces into the economic issues that people in low income communities face. You know, there's so many different moving pieces to that. And that's why platforms like this is super important, because it gives people the opportunity to understand what's going on and to, you know, give people knowledge and education. Because as you guys were mentioning earlier, it's a strategic operation. It's a strategic business, and they have done very well at strategizing how they're going to keep people in this web of the criminal and justice system, you know, from overcharging people from the beginning, or refusing bond, or giving a single mother $100,000 bond, knowing she can't make that bond, and eventually she's going to plea out to something that she should have been charged with in the first place, probably. And that's a personal experience that I'm dealing with right now with a good friend of mine. She's not a flight risk, but she's being held on $100,000 bond for something that she should not be in for, you know. And those type of things is what lead to the plea deals. Those type of things is what statistics show, that people who are not able to be out during their trial process usually take harsher conviction sentences and things like that. Right now, bail reform is a hot topic in Ohio, because all of those things just they all connect to each other. You know, that's why making sure that these platforms are really being used to educate and teach people, because again, this pandemic has been a curse and a blessing in so many ways, because it's given the opportunity to sit down and really be empathetic to what real people are actually going through. And there's so many different issues that people focus on, and that's amazing. But, you know, human life has to be a priority, and people have to begin to value human life, and understanding that people who are incarcerated, you know, there's so many different labels and terms that they give these men and women, but people, mothers, fathers, husbands who are incarcerated, they're humans, they're people, you know what I mean? So whether they're incarcerated for something they actually did do, or they're incarcerated for something that they did not do, that still does not justify the way the system continues to trap them, you know? So going back to the plea deal trap, I think the biggest thing I want to push is on the other side of that pretrial process. When you actually take a plea, Billy and I are on the opposite end of the spectrum now, where we're trying to break that shell open, and literally is so tight, not because of any other reason other than the fact that you signed a plea deal. So that's why it's so important to, you know, and again, just like I told Billy, at the time, he did the best he can do with what he was, what he was allotted at that time. But making sure we are getting attorneys like yourself into these spaces to help people who are incarcerated with no resources right now, you know, trying to collect or trying to recruit as many volunteer attorneys as possible to donate their time to people who are incarcerated and have no access to an attorney. Because let's be honest, the public defenders are overworked. And a lot of times they're just trying to push cases out, you know, as soon as possible. And then that's where you end up having the situations that you know, we are all discussing right now. So I think attorneys who are willing to donate their time, donate their their knowledge, their wisdom to help people navigate through these situations, because a lot of people don't have the money to afford attorneys, but they need them. They need people with the heart of justice to come out and help them. So that's one of the things that I think is really important for us to begin to do on this end.
Right, because when I first started this journey with Gerard, I knew nothing. I had no idea, nowhere to go. I just started emailing people. That was the first thought that came into my mind. Like, I got to tell the story. I got to get some kind of help. But even once he reached the prison system, I didn't know. I was like on pins and needles waiting. I didn't know there was a gap of time where I wasn't going to hear from him at all. And so I decided like there has to be some space or somewhere where people can go to get information, because what we're talking about can happen to anybody. It happened to me. It can happen to you. It can happen to anybody at any time. And we have to let go of the labels and the judgmental ways that we have, mindsets, when we hear these stories, because it literally can happen to anyone. So Kenneth Powell said, judges are supposed to rule on the law. As a juror, I am instructed to make my decision on the law, not my feelings. Yet judges' decisions depend on how they felt this. Let's see. Edward Sanders. Yesterday, a 36th District Court Judge, Larry Williams Jr., dismissed all criminal charges against all 30 Black Lives protesters. Oh, wow. Who were arrested this past summer. The prosecutor could not identify the arresting police officers for hundreds of people. If not for the caliber of attorneys, the protesters they all may have pleaded guilty to move on. Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. Trisha, you want to say something?
You all said so much, and there was some things I was going to jump in on, but I will say this. I'll go back to what Taylor said. This stuff goes hand in hand. They know who they're going to arrest. They know who they're going to charge. They know who they're going to convict. They know who they're going to hand these massive plea deals and years. They know this is all strategic. They have to keep that prison full. It's a $1 billion industry. So they don't care how they get bodies there. And then they give a guy a plea deal. Thank you, Holy Spirit. They give a guy a plea deal and he didn't do it. Look at Billy. Now, in order to get parole, what you got to do? You got to admit that you did it before they'll even consider letting you out. So now you have to perpetuate that lie over and over and over again. The only way to break this chain is, like you said, we have to continue to first educate ourselves and talk about it to anybody who will listen. See, people lack empathy because, as my brother said, when it ain't touching you, it's not your family, your radar is not on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to get everybody's radar thinking about justice and criminal justice reform as a whole, so that we can all cry loud and spare not, right? And say, look, we want reform, we want it now, and stay the course until we get it. Because we get mad, we march, and then sometimes we go home, and that's it. We got to stay the course this time and do the work. And we got to do it together.
And this is a message. I have a message for all of our white allies that we need our white allies. We need white people, corporate white people, activists, whoever, but we need people who are people of privilege, who have benefited from, the white supremacy. We need those people to come and align with us. You know what I mean? Because like you say, going to that empathy part, it's very hard for a white woman to put herself in my shoes if she has never experienced anyone who's been incarcerated. I did an interview with a man who literally stopped the interview because I was telling him about not just my husband, but my uncle, who has served 28 years in prison and has been denied by the parole board twice. My good girlfriend now, who is first time being incarcerated, and they're holding her on $100,000 bond, and she's been in there for almost 40 days with the child, with the home, with the job. And as I'm telling him all of these stories, he said, wow, you literally just spoke of 4 different people off the top of your head who you know personally who are incarcerated. I don't know one. It's really, really hard for them to put themselves in our shoes if they don't have the same experiences in America that we have. So it's hard for them to put ourselves in the shoes. So what we need is our white allies, because those are the people that they can relate to and connect to. We need the white allies at work, in the break room, telling the stories of what's actually going on in America and breaking those chains. That's what we need.
Right.
Absolutely.
J Love, if I could just say one thing.
Go ahead.
Along that line. See, in the state of Michigan, a lot of people don't know, in terms of entering a plea, once you do that, you give up your right to an automatic appeal. In other words, under the state constitution, all right, if you're charged with some crime in circuit court and you're convicted, you have an automatic right to appeal that conviction to the Court of Appeals, which is the second highest court in the state underneath the Michigan Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
But under the Michigan court rules and the statutes in the state of Michigan, if you enter a plea agreement and you're pleading guilty, you give up your right to an automatic appeal. You've got to ask the Court of Appeals for leave to appeal. In other words, convince them to let you appeal that. That is about a 99% failure rate in that. Furthermore, when they have people on the plea agreements, the judges are very smart. They know what the law says. They go through a whole litany. Has anybody promised you anything? Has anybody threatened you? Most people, if they're coerced, they're going to say, no. Knowing good and doggone well they're coerced, knowing good and doggone well they didn't do it, but knowing if they don't play along, they're going to get hit and hit real hard. So what happens in 99.99% of the cases that I handle, they say, Mr. Mack, your client said to the judge, nobody threatened them, nobody coerced them, they do it of their own free will. Mr. Mack, your client signed papers saying he doing this of his own free will, and now you're coming back and trying to say it's coerced, and it's just an uphill battle that they keep putting against us. Because like I said, and I want to say it from my heart, everything you ladies are saying is true. There is tremendous pressure on people to plead. Tremendous pressure.
Yes. Pamela White said, ask Kenneth Powell, remember when they see us. I haven't been able to watch that. I haven't, because it happened so close. It came out so close when Gerard went in, and I just haven't been able to take time to watch it. But those stories, we're hearing them more and more every day. We're hearing more exonerations every day of pleas and people wrongfully convicted because of the pleas. 65% of 418 exonerees who pleaded guilty were people of color. Why is that surprising? That is not surprising. Reverend Tia?
You know what I was going to say was that, unfortunately, in America, what leads us is money. And we have to know that there has to be a way to economically impact what is going on. If we don't hit their pockets, we don't make any effects, we don't create change. So I believe that there needs to be a targeted and intentional force. We look at the prison system, where we look at what companies are supporting the prisons, and we have to realize our economic power so that we can affect those companies and realize our own power. But it does start with education, and and have to become more educated in what we can do. But if we don't get to the money, if we don't get to their pockets, things will not change at the rate that we really want.
Right. Attorney Matt, Kenneth Powell said, how could we have so many plea deals, yet the court system is backed up?
Well, in terms of the courts, remember now, the courts handle criminal and civil matters also. So they're like in Washtenaw County, they have some judges that are going to specialize in criminal matters, and then child protection matters, and what have you. But to our credit, in the state of Michigan, we've got court rules that say criminal matters where people are incarcerated, those get put to the head of the line, okay? And so we still do have a backlog, because even though most plea agreements, most cases are plea agreements, the ones where people are there, they're fighting, they're legitimately fighting, okay? I mean, there are motions that are filed, like suppression motions, evidentiary motions, motions to quash, motions challenging a search warrant, which is a good thing. That is a good thing to keep the system honest. But at least people that are incarcerated do have come to the front of the line in terms of hearings and trials.
Okay. Prosecutors engage in both odd bargaining and cost bargaining. That is, they bargain to both ensure convictions in doubtful cases and to save the cost of a trial. And I do believe that that happens often when they, and you can correct me, Attorney Hugo Matt, when they feel like a plea deal comes to the table, when oftentimes when a prosecutor is not sure they can win the case.
Quite a bit. But once again, who you elect to be prosecutor, that man or woman can destroy your life with the stroke of a pen. All right. So it isn't just the charge; it's the threat of the charge. It's terrifying. The threat of the charge. Okay. So somebody can put up a 20-year felony on you, and you'll be terrified. I guarantee it. You'll be terrified. So that's why all of us got to keep fighting. We can't stop.
Right. And when you said earlier about politics being local, we have to become more vocal and more involved in our local politics. It's so easy to get distracted by national politics, the president and everything that's going on in the White House, and that we don't pay attention what happens locally. And when we don't pay attention what happens locally, we get stuff like, prosecutors that don't have our best interests all the time, representing, our counties and our mayors and police chiefs and all this, things like that don't that hold our best interests in our communities. So we have to take more responsibility ourselves to become more involved in our local day-to-day politics. Reverend Tia? Reverend Tia, did you want to say something?
Oh, I wasn't going to say anything, but I was.
Okay.
Oh, no, I didn't. I was just shaking my head. Yes. And I was in agreement.
Okay.
That's all. I was in agreement. But I am in total agreement. It's time for us to do exactly that. Yeah.
And can I say one other thing, J Love? I apologize.
No, you could.
But I want everybody to know how big this problem is. The United States Supreme Court has said it is okay to kill an actually innocent person as long as they've had a quote unquote fair trial. Okay. That's what they've said. That's how jaded we've become to put procedure and protocol over human life. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is something that it chills my blood every time I think about my Supreme Court saying that. It also chills my blood when my Supreme Court has said it is all right for law enforcement officers to lie to a defendant. It is all right. That is part of legitimate police interrogation and tactic. You know, we got 3 people saying that it's you. They know it's you. You know, you better come on and say it's you because you're going to do 20 years. And they ain't got nobody saying nothing. But they will tell somebody that in the coercion of a police station or a county jail. You know, and those of you that have been in county jails, I've been in them all over the state of Michigan. They all have that same stale urine smell in them. You know what I'm saying? A terrifying place to be caught up in when you're looking at walls and them doors are clanging, you know?
Taylor?
Yes, and what I was just thinking about was my friend who's currently in the county jail on bail, and she called me today and she said that it's starting to get the best of me. Those were her exact words, you know, and I explained to her that is their strategy, because you become institutionalized in a very short amount of time. You do, you know, 4 walls, you know, you see this urine thing and, you know, women walk around. I'm formerly incarcerated myself, so I know what that experience is like. And you get to the place where you literally just mentally, you want to be free, whatever that looks like, you know. So even when the offer is you do 2 years or 25, I'm going to take the 2 or the 10 or whatever is less than that gigantic number that's going to take my life away. So, and in Billy's case specifically, there was no evidence against Billy for this murder. There's no evidence against him. It's not something that he did, and they didn't have any evidence against him. But they were able to use the fact that he had prior charges. They were able to use that as a way to keep them from having to go into court and actually argue that or prove that he did this crime. They've never had to prove that he did this crime, and they don't have a way to prove that he did this crime, which is exactly why they offered him the plea deal. And it's exactly why they've continued to refuse to allow us to allow us a trial, is because they don't have any evidence against him. So that plea deal is it's very detrimental to a fair outcome. Like Attorney Mack was stating, we all have the right to due process. That does not mean we have the right to actually a fair or just outcome.
Right.
And we see that happen too often. So yeah, and going back to what you guys, I think I heard all of you guys mention how important the elections are. As Black people, we have to start to hone in on how important our local elections are, because yes, we have power to elect our judges, our prosecutors, the Court of Appeals, judges, all of that stuff. And the Free Billy campaign had a huge push in Cincinnati over this past election year, and we did win. After Billy's judge denied him his first motion to withdraw his plea, and now we're at the Court of Appeals. But that happened in September, right before we were able to overthrow that seat. So that judge is no longer a judge over Billy's case. We missed the prosecution race by just a little bit. However, we got the Court of Appeals judge overturned. So, you know, so it's no longer that's the same people that was in place 20 years ago, because all these people like held these seats for 20 plus years, and no one, you know, nobody pushed for these seats to be overturned. And we were able to do that, which gives Billy a completely different it increases his chances of actually now having a fair and unbiased opportunity to, you know, have his case reheard. So, you know, a lot of us, we have all experience these type of injustices, but we don't utilize the tool in voting enough to overturn those injustices, because we actually do have the power to put exactly who we need in those seats, so that we can start to get the outcomes that we need to see for our families. I'm tired of it. I'm raising a young Black son, and I refuse for him to be in the position that my husband's in, or anybody, or even myself. You know, I've got a wrongful conviction on my case, on my criminal record. You know what I mean? Something I did not do, but at 18 years old, yeah, I'm gonna take a plea. I can go home, but it's still on my record to this day. Something I didn't do. So, yeah, thank you again, J Love, for this platform. Thank all of you guys. It's truly an honor to be in the space of all of you guys, especially Trishay, because Trishay is literally one of the first people I ever reached out to when I was trying to figure out what to do. I had no clue what to do. And she was literally the first person I connected with her on social media. I'm from Ohio. She's in Michigan. And God just led me to her, and I connected with her, and her and J Love has helped me so much throughout my journey of learning how to properly advocate for my husband. So the webinar that she's hosting tomorrow, I will be attending, and it's a very important webinar to be on, because there actually is a strategic way to activate people and to build momentum and to build a campaign, because the campaign that we have created for Free Billy, the Free Billy campaign, even though we still haven't gotten the results that we want, we've had some forward movement, more forward movement than we've had in 3 years, all because of what we were able to do in 6 months, and that huge power push. We finally gotten some results. So yeah, that webinar is going to be really important. Make sure you jump on if you're available.
I agree. I will be there. I'm speaking.
You know what, real quick, and I just add.
Yeah, you good.
Taylor said, because, you know, we've gotten in this position because all we do is vote, and we think that's enough. And we have to break the mold of that. Like, we got to vote, but we got to hold the people accountable. Not just at the end of 4 years when we vote again. Nah, guess what? In Washtenaw County, they voted in Ellie Savage. Guess what? We're working with Ellie Savage, but we're still going to hold him accountable. We're still going to be at the table. We're still going to be saying things that we feel like as a people, we the people need to see done. See, we got to understand, we ain't asking nobody for a seat at the table, because the table was ours. We vote these people in. These are our positions. I do not agree with what took place at the Capitol, but one thing that them people did that we won't do, they united. They had on their hearts one agenda, and they stuck to it until they saw it through, or so they thought. But that's what we got to do. Now, not like they did. Now, we're going to do it the right way. Now, we ain't going to be doing all of that stuff.
Yelling no walls and
climbing no walls. We ain't doing none of that. But we've got to learn how to stick together. We've got to stop discounting the gifts that God has given each one of us. Yeah. Because they are all important. They are all necessary. Who gives a darn if something looks different? Celebrate it. Because if we want to take it to the Word of God, the Bible says we are a body jointly fit together. Mm-hmm. Every puzzle piece has its place, but every piece of the puzzle looks different. But I bet you when you put that puzzle together, that baby looks bad no matter what the picture is, because it's a complete puzzle. Mm-hmm. So we got to learn how to celebrate our differences and love each other. That's going to be the only way we can unite and do this work together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I believe that exactly what you're saying, Trishay, like we have to change our mindsets and, you know, walk away from the fear mindset, because so many people, they say that's not going to happen, or that's the way they always do, or, you know, and that takes over, you know, our minds, and keep us complacent, because that's what they always do. And no, we have, I mean, just with this past election, where people been motivated and stepped out on faith and let go of their fears, things happen. So that was just one step but actually we all can do it if we join together and make change for our local communities. If we all, honor each other and stay focused on change and be committed to change. Reverend Tia? I don't know. Reverend Tia having some technical difficulties. But we're going to get ready to close out. So, Attorney Hugo.
But I'm good
okay,
now.
there you go. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I was trying to chime in and it wouldn't let me, but I just wanted to say that that economic power, I believe exactly what Trichet has just said. When it comes to what had just happened, we have to realize that they economically joined together. Howbeit, they probably used our tax money to do it, but they used and irrigated their monies for the cause. And also, we got to realize that they got all the ammunition. You can't go buy ammunition right now because they bought it all up. So we need an agenda, is what I'm saying. And I'm so glad that we have this platform, because I believe from this platform, and I already see the different agendas that are coming into view. And so once we have our agenda and that is economically funded,
yes,
we will have success.
Absolutely. And you're right. And that's why we have to come here and use our platforms and have these conversations, because having a conversation would give us a clear understanding of where we need to go. But if we're not talking, if we're not having a conversation, we don't know where to start. So I'm so grateful for you guys. Attorney Hugo Matt said he's going to be with us every week now.
That's right.
So yay to our gang.
Amen. That's right.
And we're going to just, keep on, putting out this information and till we get some policy changes and making some movement. So, Trichet, again, tell us about your event tomorrow and how people can find it.
All righty, real quick. Is Are You an Activist? What's Your Role in This Justice Fight? It is tomorrow at 2 p.m. It's a workshop style, so we're going to have about maybe a good 9-10 speakers, but it's okay. We at home. Get your popcorn out, get your snacks, sit there, relax, because guess what? It's something on the line. In order for this fight, we all got to sacrifice something. We just got to figure out what it is based on our gifts. And so we're going to meet at 2 p.m. If you go to our Facebook page, Survivor Speak, you will actually see the Zoom link registration. You know what, Jay, can we put that up? I sent it to you.
Okay, I'm going to it now. Go ahead, keep talking while I do it.
But, we just have to figure out, like Tia said, we have to have an agenda. But we got to understand this demon of racism and white supremacy, it ain't going to just come down one way. That's why it's going to take different things, because we got to attack it from different angles. You feel what I'm saying? But if we come together, keep talking, educate ourselves, and unify, every place, everything fits. And we can do it together in our own areas. And I believe we can tear this thing down or see some good ground being made. I believe that momentum is here. We just got to do what's right.
Okay, I put it up. Are you an activist? What is your role in the justice fight? And I have the link on there if you guys can screenshot it, or also go to Survivor Speak on Facebook, and it'll be posted. I'm going to post it on my page this evening. Oh, it's already on there, but I'm going to repost it after this event. It's going to be on, I'm pretty sure, on Taylor's page, on Tia's page, on Attorney Hugo Matt's page. So go to our pages if you to get this information, you guys. There's a lane for everybody. There's I thinking of the song, there's room at the cross, but there's room for everybody. Right. There's room for everybody. Everybody is not going to be on Facebook Live or standing in the protest, but there's something that everybody can do. We need all hands on deck. What's going on is just a travesty to our families, to our friends, and to our loved ones. We can't just keep allowing people to keep wrongfully incarcerating us. Sorry. I'm sorry. It's over for that. That's funny. Pamela White said the Justice Squad. That's us. That is so cool. So injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We want to remember that. Today is Dr. King's birthday, and we just want everybody to take some time out on your long weekend to reevaluate yourself, what you're doing. And if you're not doing anything or saying anything, find a space or something that you can do and say to help somebody because we need it. So if anybody else has anything else to say, Taylor?
I do. I just want to add, I know you shared it a few times, but if you guys could sign the petition by texting Free Billy, one word, to 66866. Text that number and it'll bring up the petition. Also follow the Facebook page, Free Billy, at Free Billy He's Innocent on Facebook, and we'll be updating some of the different things that we're doing within the campaign. We have some rallies coming up, as well as we currently have some music streaming going on from our Free Billy fundraiser back in October. We had some local performers and they was dope. They were lit, and they were for the cause and for the movement. So it's some good music, like good vibes, that you can download, and the link is on the Free Billy page. And also Billy has a mixtape coming out where he is speaking, and there's some other artists who are incarcerated and just sharing their art and allowing their voices to be heard from behind the wall, because no more are they going to just be, the people who don't have voices. They have voices and they're going to be heard. So they got some music coming out for you guys to listen and tap into actually what's going on within the institution. And they're just sharing their stories that way. So thank you again, all of you guys, for your leadership. Thank you for your platforms. And I'm excited for what's next.
Yes, and it's important that we tell our stories and control our own narratives, because if we don't tell our story, somebody else is going to tell it, and it is not going to be a way that we want it to be told. So to take our power back, we have to tell our own stories. Attorney Hugo Mack, do you have anything to leave us with?
Well, I want to let you know this, that never, ever, ever think that we're not making a difference, because we are, and the thing of it is, if we weren't making a difference, they wouldn't be fighting so hard against us. Okay. If we weren't making a difference, you wouldn't have the clown in the White House, despite those young men from New York being vindicated through DNA, which cannot lie, still saying those men are worthy of death because they're so filled of self-pride and racism, they refuse to admit they're wrong. They refuse. So the fact that they're trying to come against us, the fact that they're trying to storm the Capitol, don't be discouraged by that. Be encouraged by that, because we're all making a difference.
Absolutely. And I want to tell everyone to also share this event, like it and share with others, because you never know who needs this information. So make sure you share it. Reverend Tia, you want to leave us with anything? Reverend Tia.
Yes. I just feel so empowered because of this platform, and because, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yes. We hear you.
I'm here.
We hear you. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to say, thank you that with Attorney Mack, that That's why people are angry, because there is a change is happening. Change is happening, and change is happening right now. And they are afraid of the change. But the change is now. And so I really believe that this platform and others like it are here at this dispensation for a purpose. And I truly believe that all things are possible. All things are possible with God. So we may not know the how, but I just believe that as we come together, there are answers and solutions ways.
Yes. Amen.
Amen.
Edward Sanders said I have some videos on guilty pleas and we'll put them back up on my Facebook page soon. Thank you, Edward. And Edward, I want to get you on here too, because you are a wealth of knowledge. He is an exoneree as well. So I want him to come on one week with us and tell the story. So well, if that's it, I'd like to thank everyone for being here with us today. I appreciate you all. I'm going to leave us with our closing. It is our duty to fight for our freedoms. It is our duty to win. We must love, respect, support, and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you. I love you guys. Thank you.
God bless. All right. Thank you.
Love you too.
Bye. Bye, everyone. See you
Love
next
you.
Friday. Love you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.